Welcome everyone to a new mini-series about the solid principles. Today we're going to be talking more about single responsibility and interface segregation principle. So, single responsibility is pretty well known and common, but I tend to see a lot of misunderstanding about interface segregation. I think a lot of people think about interface segregation principle as just interfacing. These are not two the same things, so I would like to shed some light on this one as well. But before we get started, I want to say that I can see the user repository pattern has created quite a lot of controversy in the Laravel community. There are sort of like you either love it or hate it kind of approach. I love it. I'm in the track where I love it. It's because I've been building enterprise level applications. I'm a CTO at Copero right now, and like I tend to manage like 40 plus developers under me. So it's like I can see the same arguments over and over, like from my junior developers that come into our company, and then they ask, some stuff, and they have the same sort of arguments that in Laravel you do like this, and in Laravel you use eloquent everywhere and stuff like this, and that might be true when you're prototyping. But fact is, active record does not scale. You can see it in Ruby world, you can see it in Laravel as well. Like if you have been building enterprise level applications, what I mean enterprise, I mean like, have you ever got like 100,000 users on your website? Well, I have, and I know it doesn't scale. And I've tried indexing, I've tried a lot of stuff, like I even read tons of books about database and MySQL optimizations, and it will still not scale. It's a fact of life. So what I'm teaching you here is super high level stuff. So you just have to trust me on this. I mean, this is how it works. I mean, you might not use what I say, but if you do, if you just trust me on this, you will see a huge result. So this is one part of the story where people actually don't like it. Then don't use it. I mean, if you have like your like side projects or a very small API or maybe a bunch of users, maybe 1,000, you'll be fine with Eloquent. But the stuff I'm teaching you is for 100K users a day and stuff like this. But actually, I have to say that my channel went quite viral in Russian-speaking countries, which is pretty cool actually. So of all the guys who actually support me and speak Russian, I want to say spasiba. So thank you very much for your attention, and yeah, let's get started to mod some cool knowledge. So here we have a typical example of like an interface that represents a database. I mean, I call it repository, but it could be anything you really want. I mean, actually in our company, we call it users, just like this, not to be fixated on like repository pattern and stuff like this. But like adding is not like enough most of the time. Most of the time we want to support all CRUD applications like create, read, update, and delete. Let me create a bunch of methods here. So the first one is like the remove. Obviously, when you want to add something, you want to remove, and then most likely you want to remove by some identifier. And then the identifier in this example is int. This is like 90% of the projects in Laravel and in general in programming. It has some trade-offs. This is not the best way actually to do it. I would never really use ints. Especially auto-incremented ints on the database. But this is a whole another topic. Like we should touch it in some other video. Okay. Once we can add and remove, we probably want to fetch like all. And then what we also want to do is to find by a specific ID. So then we provide the ID and we return an object. And let's just say it's a user model. This is like a typical Laravel namespace for it. I mean, I would never put it here. It should be like in some models namespace or something like this, preferably in the domain part. But okay, anyway, sidetracking here. So here we have a user repository that contains like add, remove, and get. You could argue that add should also do updates, so maybe you want to add an update method as well, but generally it's not important. What's important is that we have a typical interface like this. but it has some problems. So let me say why.